G'day and welcome to the Campfire Project panel discussion today. And today I have with me, first of all, Angela Heiser, who is a leadership and productivity coach. How are you, Angela?
Wonderful. Thank you, Alan.
It's great to have you here because you've been on a few panels before and we've always had a great time. So I'm looking forward to another one today.
Oh, I'm back and it's been fun.
And when everybody's watching, we've got some special news coming up in the next couple of weeks about what Angela and I are going to be doing together for the Campfire Project. So stay tuned for that. And then we also have Anne McKeown from Sydney, who is a coach for women in business. How are you, Anne?
Yeah, good. Thank you. It's nice to be here again.
It's great because we just had a conversation just recently and I had a great time with that. So I've been looking forward to getting you under the panels as well.
Great. Thank you for the invite.
Now, we thought coming up to this time of year, with people setting up New Year's resolutions and things like that, we might have a look at goals and how they actually compare to New Year's resolutions, especially after we look at 2020 being the year of vision, how we should be looking at that. And that was a great suggestion from Angela. And then Anne came along and said, well, let's, the resolutions are quite short-termed. Things are looking at what are heart goals, which are the unconscious mind, and then looking at the smart goals, which is the conscious mind, and creating a vision that will carry us through the whole year and well into the future. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. So, and if you'd like to start us off and give us a bit of an understanding of what you were thinking about looking into, not only just next year, but also into the future, as going from both the unconscious mind and the conscious mind goals that we set.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Well, for me, it's a new decade, obviously, for everybody. So for me, it was not just the year, but the 10 years, because often we can, I find that life changes every decade, and what you want in your 20s is different to what you want in your 30s and different to what you want in your 40s and 50s and blah, blah, blah. So we're heading into a new decade with 2020. And whenever I've come across goal setting in the past, particularly in my corporate background, everybody shares SMART goals. And, it's a really good platform. The S is for specific, for those that haven't come across it before. The conscious mind needs to know specifically what it is you want. So if you're going to say, I want a new house, it's too broad. It has to be more specific than that. I want a house with 3 bedrooms and a red door and a white picket fence and, really specific. It then has to be measured. So how will you measure the success? Is it by how quickly you get that house, or the bargain that you pay for that house, or, a measurement of your success? The A is for, is it achievable? So, can you actually afford that house? Is it possible to buy it within the next week? Or is it going to take 6 months? Is your goal achievable within your realm? Is it realistic, which is similar? So if you are earning $25 an hour as a cashier in Coles, can you really afford to buy a house in the next 6 weeks? So it's making your goals realistic. And then the T is for timed. So there has to be a time on it so that it gets done, because if it's a goal that's just, in 10 years I will have achieved, that's not good enough. We need to know, what are you doing in a year? What will that look like in 6 months? What will that look like in 3 months? And then it comes right down to, what will you do today so that we can time when that will happen? And that's all great. And the conscious mind goes straight into that. Your thinkers will go, yep, great. And they can follow that and tick every box and they'll love that. But for me, I actually found it uninspiring and boring and just didn't draw me forward. And we have towards goals and away goals. And a towards goal is something that really pulls you forward. It's something that you really want. Let me take weight loss as an example. So we'd say towards goal is, I want to get fit and healthy. And away from goal would be, I don't want to be fat. So one is a positive that draws you forward. The other is a negative that you're avoiding. It's almost an avoidance goal. So I was just browsing one day over trying to sort my own goals for the coming year, and I saw the word SMART, as in SMART goals for the conscious mind, backwards. And it read the word trams, if you look at it backwards. And my mind went on this wee journey of being on a tram. So are you up the front driving, or are you sitting up in the back waiting on someone else to carry you through life? Do you have a map? Do you know where you're heading? Do you have a timetable? Do you know where you're going and how long it's going to take? When you're in your tram and it's going uphill and your journey is difficult, are you going to jump off and give up? Or are you going to keep persevering and stay on till you get over the brow of that hill and enjoy the free flow at the other side? I just had this whole analogy come up in my little brain about a journey, and life being a journey, and anything that we want from life being a journey and a process. And then things like what's hanging on to the back of your tram. So for example, a project that you're doing at work, or people in your life that are maybe holding you back. If you're going to get a team that comes onto your tram with you, are you kind and pleasant to them when they jump on? Are you inviting people, and based on their skills, or are you just letting anybody jump into your team who could be disruptive? And anyway, so I went on this whole journey in my mind, and then I decided that I would put onto the word trams the flip side of SMART, where the SMART goals are the conscious mind. What was happening in that moment when I was going on that trams journey was my unconscious mind almost daydreaming, and that's where a lot of our inspiration and great ideas come from. And so for me, those kind of goals pull me towards, rather than SMART goals, I kind of shy away from them. It's like, and I know even as a coach, women in business will say to me, oh, I hate goal setting. But it's because we're not tapping into their heart. It's all head centered. And so I'd now talk about SMART goals and heart goals. And my heart goals are my trams analogy. And the T stands for towards. So it has to be goals that draw you towards what you want. The R is for relationships, because I believe that we can't really achieve anything substantial on our own. You know that with the community that you're building. Even if anything we want to do at work, we need the bus driver to take us there, or we need the guy that built the car, or we need the guy at the petrol station. So when we have good relationships, and that starts with our relationship with ourselves, by the way, then we can build good team relationships, and that's when our life and our business is more fulfilling and can really take off and become what we want it to be. So that was the R. The A was for attitude. So your attitude really determines how the outcome of your life and your business. So when I had the attitude of, oh, I hate goal setting, well, then I wasn't setting goals and I wasn't achieving anything. But when my attitude changed to be one of positive heart goals, and I want to do this, and I'm going to take on the attitude of being a doer, that really changed. And we know, we work with people, and if we talk about people who've got a bad attitude and how negative that can be to the people around us. The M is for meaningful and memorable. So this is probably the biggest part of heart goals for me. If we are doing something that's meaningful to us, we've all heard of Simon Sinek talk about your why, you know, and that's what's meaningful to you. Why are you doing it? If you don't know why, and if it's not meaningful, then it's not going to draw you towards. And memorable, because for me, running a business is part of my life. It's a big part of my life, and I want to enjoy that journey. So I want to make positive memories along the way as I'm progressing. If we're doing things that we're resisting and aren't memorable or meaningful, again, it's an away from goal, not a towards goal. And the S in trams stands for stable and smile. So we want to stay on that track. We want to stay in those tram lines. We want to stay stable. There will be things that, you know, other shiny objects, other opportunities, maybe a segue, But that's when we waste time, energy, and money, and we lose our focus. If we can stay on those tram lines, then we will get towards what it is that we really want quicker.
That's it. The thing that connected that I really come in on is the fact that you talked about towards and away from goals. If you work with an away from goal, when you get far enough away from it, it no longer looks as big. You stop, and it's like being on a bungee rope. You just like you get pulled back into it again. That's why people can keep repeating their behaviours. But if it's a work towards, you're more likely to be able to stay in the tracks, because as you're working closer to it, it becomes a bigger picture. And the more you focus on that, the less other things are going to draw you offline. So I can see how that really works. Angela, with the looking at this, you work with people with their emotions and everything else. So you'd really see that when people are setting their goals, I think it's those unconscious emotional goals that we don't set that actually draw us offline. Would you find that at all, or what would be your take on that?
Absolutely. I find that people often set goals, and they either, as Anne was saying, they have goals they don't want, or they want to get away from. And those are the ones that then they create. Because, I mean, we've all known the people who said, I never wanted to be like my mother/father. And then they sit there and go, oh, damn, I'm just like them. Because when they start yelling at their kids or whatever it is they're doing. So it's the ability to actually say, I know what I want. And for me, it's always important to connect an emotion to a goal that really works for me. And that's what you call the meaningful as well. It's how do I want to feel when I reach the goal? I have a very simple metaphor that I use when I run my workshops and any kind of program. I'm really big on goal setting. So I say to people, okay, so if I gave you a plane, fully tanked, crew, takeoff and landing permits, you've got provisions, you've got everything you need, plus I have just magically downloaded 10,000 hours of flight experience into your head. Could we fly to the USA? And people go, sure, absolutely. And I go, no, you can't. It's a continent. You actually have to be specific about where you want to go. And if you then say, I want to go to New York, you have to be even more specific, because New York has 3 airports. But if you don't say, and you have to have a really good reason why you want to go. It's like, I want to go and watch a Broadway show is very specific. And that's, and you say that's specific in the sense of, measurable. And I generally go for one that is really about fulfilling needs and emotions. Or something that feels good when I get there. And that's what I ask people to step into. What will it feel like when you've reached that goal? Not just, it's yes, by all means, what will you see, hear, feel, touch, taste, but it's what will you feel? So you know that you want to fly to New York, but you really have to know how you want to feel about it. But the important thing is also to know that we go onto an autopilot when we set a goal. And like you can't fly a plane with full focus for 24 hours, however long it takes to get to New York. We have to keep this is where the unconscious mind comes in. You have to be able to put it into the back of your mind. And when you attach an emotion to it, it'll keep you on that autopilot. This is why I always say to people, knowing what you want to feel is really important, but what you don't want to feel is also important. Because if I get bored or I get frustrated or angry or anything like that, it means that I have lost the focus on my goal. And chances are, by that point, I'm on my way to Miami. And I no longer focus on New York.
That's it.
So really knowing what is meaningful to me and how do I want to feel, how satisfied, how joyful, how fulfilled do I want to feel when I get there, will really keep me on track.
Yeah, because I see this as being extremely important, because all the goal setting I've worked with groups, I've worked with different coaches, all the goal setting has been around the conscious mind. It's around that logic side and everything else. But if our emotions aren't connected to it, then things come up, as they say, if life happens and we then go off target. I know if we're selling to somebody comes and says, right, I have a need, I need to fix this up. And you go, okay, well, why do you want that to be fixed? And then they talk about that, you're getting a bit more of an understanding of, and so it goes from just a need where they just want to get it fixed quickly to understanding what's behind it, but then taking them to that extra level of, if you achieve that, then what is that going to mean to you? Like, I want to get more sales. Why do you want to get more sales? So I've got more time. Why do you want more time? So I can spend time, take the kids to school, I'll be there when they come home. You're getting into the emotion of it. And then if you focus on that, then the need of getting sales, the more sales becomes very easy for them. So you've got to have that emotional connection, which I just, you know, in this little discussion with both of you, I just realised that that's quite often been missed in all the coaching that's out there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Coaches don't take enough time to go into it and find out what your real emotions are, what's the emotional goal you want, and really anchor that to the conscious goal.
Yeah. And also, what's the need that you want to fulfill? Because anytime we're fulfilling a need, we're actually feeling good about something. And anytime we're not fulfilling a need, the emotion can be quite unpleasant. So having that linked is really important.
It's almost like instead of just going from one to the other, it's almost like that figure eight of just oscillate, going back around each of them, reconnecting them all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really like that. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on that, Anne?
Yeah, no, I agree actually, and I love the analogy of the figure eight. And I was just thinking there about feelings, because our feelings rule our life, and our feelings come from the unconscious mind. So an external event happens, it goes through our internal representation, and then we react based on how it made us feel. And so, for example, often we'll do things that are not good for us because we feel like it. So you feel like spending a lot of money, you go and do it even if you can't afford it. You feel like buying that new dress and you go and get it. You feel like having a bottle of wine even though you know it's not good for you, but you do it. So when we can recognize our feelings, having that awareness, and the awareness is a huge part of it, then we can feed the feelings, but to get the positive feelings, but from positive behavior and positive habits that are going to give us positive outcomes, rather than, you know, the feelings being almost like I need a treat, so I'm just going to have a whole box of chocolates, and it's almost like we feel like we're getting a treat, but it has a negative outcome. Yeah, so I think being able to control our feelings and be aware of them and see what gives us that great feeling. And it makes me think of the difference between our needs and wants. So we need to pay taxes even though we don't want to. We might need to go to the gym even if we don't want to. And we need to set goals even if we don't want to be. And that's where coaches can help, because we can help you get over that, the hump between the needing to and wanting to. And I think when we include heart goals in the unconscious mind, it gets to the stage where you actually want to do this. Yeah. You're driven to want to do it. And then it's just not a challenge. It's just enjoyable.
Yeah, because I remember talking to one lady one day and I said, well, you know, what do you do when you get depressed? She says, oh, I go and buy an outfit. And I go, well, you know, do you do that all the time? You know, why don't you work on your goals? You know, and she says, oh, well, I said, what happens as soon as you bought the outfit and the euphoria of that wears off? You know, it's no longer a new outfit. She says, oh, I go and buy the matching handbag. And that's probably because there's never been that, you know, that unconscious and emotions and everything else brought into it to show that, yes, to step out of where we are usually is a bit of a challenge because we're used to where we are, even though we may not like it. There's a fear of stepping into something that's new. And then we go, oh, then all the other negative thought, you know, especially if you've got family around you or somebody else who doesn't want to see you move away because they don't want to lose you, not because they don't like you, because they don't want to lose you. And they tell you, oh, you can't do that. The next thing you know, you believe them. And that's all because you didn't set up that dream strong enough with all the emotions and taking it from the dream to an understandable and recognizable goal that you can actually create.
That was, and this is the thing, is if we set ourselves goals that are where we have people around us, I call them the foggers, because they spread fog. They, you know, it's really hard. Then we need to have that specific goal in mind. I mean, if you remember the Wright brothers, I mean, they had a father who stood on the pulpit every Sunday and said, if God had wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. You know, so they had to go against religious, paternal, all sorts of beliefs that said, you know, we are not meant to fly. Or then, of course, there's Roger Bannister, you know, who ran the first 4-minute mile, where doctors were saying, no, we will never be able to run this fast. The heart will explode if we do that. But if we set a goal that I'm not saying that you now decide that you're going to jump off a building and say, you know, I will supersede physical laws and I'm going to do it. But if you know that you're going to work on something, then having the goal, and even if you don't know that somebody has done it before, get yourself some role models of people who have done it or who have overcome the beliefs that it wasn't possible, like the Wright brothers or like Roger Bannister, and say, you know what, I can. Because we are so focused on negative emotions. The brain has this wonderful negativity bias that basically says that for every negative emotion that we feel, we need 3 positive ones to offset the effect. So the more we are focused on what we want and the more positive we are about our goal, the easier it's actually to achieve. Because what we do is we say, yes, I feel crappy about this right now. I'll have my bottle of wine or I'll buy my dress. But, you know, I'm probably going to be able to delay that and say, I feel crappy. I recognize that. I need to fix it. So just that realization will probably already take care of it.
You know, just wondering whether the Wright brothers had ever thought of saying to their dad, you're absolutely right that if we were meant to fly, God would have given us wings, but he's made us the instrument to bringing the wings to you.
Who knows what they said, but maybe they believed because they made it happen.
And I think, and that's the difference between, you know, jumping off a building where the evidence is that when you jump off a building, nobody who's done it before has survived. Whereas with the Wright brothers, nobody had flown before, so there was no evidence of either way. So it's a completely different thing. So they were stepping into the unknown, whereas if you jump off a building, you know what's going to happen.
I just wanted to say that just in case somebody said, you know what, I'm just going to see what happens. Please don't try this at home.
Yeah, I know, and I have to put disclaimers on the panel discussions.
About jumping out of buildings.
That's it. So, where, you know, with people who are listening to this, and especially looking at around about the ones around affirmations, or not so much, what do you call it, resolutions, the word I'm looking for next year and everything else, and the goal side of things. You know, I know everybody gets sucked into what are your New Year's resolutions. You'll see it all over Facebook. You'll see it all over the media, the News Limited, when they're having their panel discussions around the news table. They'll be asking each other, what's your resolutions and everything. How do we stop falling into that trap and remind ourselves that we have to do a little bit more work on than just picking out, oh, I'm going to do this, which we know we're never going to do?
I think there's a difference between a wish and then an actual desire to really make something come to life. And I think often what happens with New Year's resolutions is when we say, I'm going to join the gym and lose X amount of weight, what we're saying is, I'm going to join the gym and I wish that I could, or I hope that I will, but there isn't really the commitment. And I think one of the biggest things, the differentiation for me is that comes back to that relationship thing where it's very difficult to do it on our own. I mean, I'm a coach and I've got a coach because I have people around me who will be like, oh, and you don't need to do that. You're working too hard. Take it easy. But I love what I do and I don't feel I'm working too hard. I don't need to take it easy. But their influence could be where I say, oh yeah, maybe I won't do more today. Maybe I won't go on that next client. Maybe I won't bother setting that goal. Whereas with my coach, it's constantly positive, as in, you can do this, you know, you can stretch yourself. I'm here for you 100%. I'm walking alongside you. I do believe in you. You're my Roger Bannister. You know, there's because we're trained to do that, where the people that live with us and who love us and who maybe see us stressed or excited, whichever way, the adrenaline's pumping around and they feel they've got to control or fix or help, but they're not trained in how to do that. So they just say, oh, let yourself off the hook. And I think that's a resolution, is where you say, I'm wishing and hoping and dreaming that I'm going to be able to do this on my own, and it probably won't last very long. But goal setting, heart goals and smart goals, you get a coach like Angela, yourself, or me, we're all trained and we're all able to walk alongside people, and it's not a short-term thing. You know, it can be, what's your goal for the decade? What's your goal for 5 years, 3 years? What's your goal for the next 6 months? What's your goal for next week? and we help them plan that out, and we hold people accountable, because that's very difficult for us to do for ourselves. When we don't feel like it, we let ourselves off the hook. And a coach will, in a very gentle, loving, caring way, who sees the best in you, say, come on, don't let yourself down. You know you can do this. Yeah, so for me, that's the difference between goals and resolutions, I think.
And it's important to have that coach or accountability partner, somebody you can work with, who can guide you along. I keep thinking of one of my mates. I've known him since I was in my teens. When I came to Newcastle, he was already here and he worked in my section. And I used to go and pick him up in our 20s. I'd go and pick him up in the early morning. We'd go surfing before work. And so by having the commitment of going and picking him up meant that I would get out of bed, even on the days I go, oh, but Alan's waiting for me. So I'd go and pick him up. And the two of us would then go, his name's also Alan. And but he did ask me one day, he said, it's really great that you come and pick me up every morning. He said, but why do you do it? I said, mate, by having you out in the water, it reduces the chance of shark attack by 50%. And besides that, you've got a bigger board than me, so you've got to go out further. They've got to get to you before they get to me. This is about self-preservation. But if it hadn't been that I was picking him up each day, to go out for the surf, there's so many days I would have missed it, because I had two young boys. I knew my wife would be going, well, why are you going? You don't have to go. And so I'd stop going, because there'd be that pressure of staying there with the kids. But that was really the only time I had for myself.
Yeah.
I was renovating a house, looking after the kids when she was at work and vice versa. So it was just work all the time.
Yeah.
So to have somebody that can guide you through, even if it's one of your mates. It's like you probably know Scott Carson, who's been on the panel quite a few times. He runs a thing called the Sunday Club, or Sunday session, where they get together, and some of them go for a walk together and others go for a run, but it's a commitment. And because he set it up, he's the one, having set it up, he's got this commitment on him to make sure he's there for all the other men. And because he's organising it, they've got the commitment to come along. And so the end result is this thing happens every weekend, and every time they do it, there's so much conversation on his Facebook page of how well they're enjoying it. But you know that if they didn't have that organisation to start with, there'd be so many of those runs and walks they never would have been on.
Mm.
So basically what I'm hearing is we need the hard goals and we need the smart goals. We need to combine them. We need to be able to bring them together. And that's the difference between the New Year's resolution and a goal. Because New Year's resolution are generally completely vague.
Yeah.
There's no action plan attached to it. I mean, 71% of people decide that they're going to lose weight or go on a diet. But that's pretty much where it ends. They don't put a plan in place. And my favorite is always, the gym in January is packed. But at the end of the month, it's back to the people who were there all along.
That's it.
So the idea is to actually have somebody there who supports you in setting a goal, and helps you like really make it an unconscious goal that you can keep track of all the time, not consciously but unconsciously, because it's so compelling that that's the autopilot that keeps going all the time. And then it's about also, sometimes it's about recognizing that the changes that have to be made are so great that you're not going to do it. If I set myself a goal of, I don't know, I'm not going to go to the gym now every day for an hour and a half. I'm not going to do that. That's going to last 3 days and I'm going to be out. But if I set myself smaller, more achievable goals, then these micro changes that allow me to actually pursue my goal in small steps, I'm much more likely to go and do that. But again, it's about, as Anne and you were saying, Alan, it's about combining the conscious with the unconscious, having something that really gets us going, and at the same time have something that is connected to our unconscious values and what is really meaningful for us.
As you've both said, it's making sure that the goal that you set is achievable and everything else. It is realistic, but it's not too wishy-washy, but also not too much over the top. So having somebody there who can then question and go, right, without making a judgment, go, when's the timing on that? How feasible is that? Is that really stretching yourself, or is that not stretching yourself enough? Overstretching yourself or not stretching. And so somebody can ask you those questions so that you can then work that out and go, right, I've had somebody who's asked me questions that's kept me focused. Yep, all this is achievable. And as you've said, Angela, making sure that emotional side is on, because your unconscious mind works 24/7. Our conscious mind only works when we're conscious. And for a lot of people, not even that long each day. So, and as I say, affirmations for some people work really well, but for other people, they don't work at all. And that's because the affirmation they work is wishy-washy, as you've said, with some of the goals. And it's only said so many minutes of the day, whereas your unconscious mind all day is saying the opposite. And so you're trying to convince the unconscious mind that's bigger and louder and it's just ignoring you. So you've got to yell with affirmations and try and bludgeon it into believing. If it do get the affirmation to come true, then it's usually because you bludgeon the unconscious mind's got exhausted. But as soon as something takes you off track, the unconscious mind's going to step in and go, told you were wrong. And we become our own worst enemy.
Pick up again on the analogy with at the gym, because I like that one. And I know that if I go to the gym, I will faff about. I'll do a wee bit of this and a wee bit of that, but I don't really have a set program and I don't really push myself. Whereas if I get a personal trainer, I'm hiring an expert who understands the bones, the body, the muscles, the tissues, the tendons, the nutrition, how the body functions, my weight, my age, my all of that. They can then create a program that's going to be really suited to me. They can walk alongside me and help me and encourage me, and they don't let you skip and be a bit lazy. And often when people say to me, well, what do you do? And I say, well, if you imagine a coach in the gym that helps you get your body to peak condition so you can achieve whatever it is you want, whether just to be healthy, lose weight, run a marathon, whatever, that's what I, and you both do this too, do with the mind. We take your mind and your brain, that's a muscle, and we help you rewire that, and we help you. We have the skills, we have the plan, we've done it, we've seen other people, we've helped them through it, we understand the mind. And I think there comes a time where, and they say that the teacher comes when the student's ready. There comes a time when you say, you know what, I just can't do all of this on my own anymore. I am going to bring in an expert, someone who's been trained and can help me. And I mean, even people that go, trainers at the gym have their own trainers as well, because we learn that to grow, and Angela said it right at the beginning, by modeling on someone else, that's one way, because they've already been there and done it. But the other way is to have that person walk alongside you.
That's it. And it's always, there's lots of different coaches out there, some good, some bad. But I think the best way to determine the good coach is one who asks you a lot of questions before they even start, because they're trying to find out all that information about you. And, sometimes you think, well, when are you going to stop asking questions and start giving me, some answers on what I need to do? When I've got all the facts with the answer I want to hear from them. And then they ask a few more questions, and then I'm satisfied that this is somebody who's really focused on me. It's not going to go to the filing cabinet where they talk about giving you this personalised plan, and they pull out a piece of paper that's been
template.
What do you call it? Copied and photocopied to death. It looks about 50 years old. You've got somebody who says, right, I've looked at you, I understand you. I know when we're talking, whether you're extending yourself or you're not extending yourself enough. I know how to ask you the right questions that cause you then to stop and think, okay, they don't have to tell me I'm wrong, because we put the barrier up to that. But if the person asks us, well, have you extended yourself far enough? That's asking us a question that we can give a yes or no answer to, not take a combatant position to it. So you look for coaches that will have those discussions with you. And then when it's all in place, then you decide that you do something that you don't want, there's somebody who's going to then call you on your shit, so to speak. And go, enough. We've been through this. That's what you said. This is what we're going to do. So where's the results? You've got an extra 5 minutes. Go and get it done.
I have like Anne, and probably like you, Alan, we've never talked about it. I have a coach as well. And I check in with her very regularly to make, it's the whole, and I check in with her when I feel that I'm getting off course, and to make sure that I get back on. And we look a lot at beliefs. So what belief gets in my way at the moment? What's the thing that I've got in my head? Because what they say, when what you see, what you see you believe, or you believe
Yeah.
what you see.
Yeah.
And it's actually what you believe you will see.
That's it.
It's not what you see you believe.
Yeah.
It's my perception will focus on what fits my reality. And if it becomes uncomfortable, then I need to have somebody who sits there and says, you know what, it's just uncomfortable. And if there's a belief that gets in the way, I want to deal with that.
That's it. And yeah, we know that, everything that we feel, sense every day, we take in about, what they say, 2 million bits of information every second through all of our senses, but we process 134 bits. So that's 1/15,000th or whatever.
That's unconscious. Consciously too.
Yeah. So it's with that, there's so much that we're not even looking at. But what we're looking at is what we focus on, and that's what we then, as you said, that emotional side, we focus on what we emotionally connect to. We then see that, and then that becomes our reality. And as you said, coaches are going to call you on. You got a chat with mine this morning. God, I hate talking to him because he calls me on stuff all the time, and it's like, why do I talk to you? Oh, that's right, I want to move forward. Damn. But you got to go through it.
Yeah.
So, and that's the first question is, question you got to ask yourself is, how much do I really want that goal? So again, working that goal out and understanding what it is and creating that in a way in which it's so vividly bright in your conscious mind, but also then in your unconscious mind, you've got a better chance of, reaching it and meeting it.
Yeah. I think one of the big things too is for all of us to accept that no matter what we want, it's a process. If we go back to the first analogy of buying a house, it takes time to find the house and to get a loan and to get the removal men in and to sell your own house and to, it can be a 6-month process. But when we hit New Year, we think, right, 1st of January, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get there. And by the 4th of January, if we haven't achieved it, we give up. And I think there's a lot out there of, the quick fix, the overnight win, the 7-figure, multimillionaire over this, or, and the truth about anything is that until we put in the effort and take the action, we won't achieve it. But it's not even the end goal, it's the journey. If you can say, okay, well, I am going to end up with that house, or I am going to end up slimmer, but in the next 6 months, I'm going to really enjoy each stage of that because it's going to push me and I'm going to grow. I'm going to have to learn about legal documents for buying a house and loans and mortgages and all of that can be quite testing. But if we see it rather than problematic, but a love of learning, this is a new project I'm taking on and I'm going to enjoy learning each stage of this new project, or learning about the body as we're losing weight and learning about health and nutrition, it just completely changes it from being problematic and a challenge to overcome or an obstacle to being a fun challenge,
I think so.
The thing is, a lot of people set themselves goals that they think they have to. And I'm just writing an article about approval, because that's a lifelong process. And I say approval is a really good thing as long as you approve of yourself. But what we do is we set ourselves goals in the sense of, this person will approve of me if I do this. If I keep telling somebody that I'm working on my fitness, on my weight, on my abundance, I'm going to get brownie points. And I'm going to fit right in. But they're not necessarily the goals that we want to have. It's like I can have somebody tell me, oh, you really need to lose 20, 30 kilograms. But, that may not be reasonable because, I would not be able to maintain this without eating, 1 salad leaf a day. It's like, I love it when people go, yeah, but everybody is the same. This is what Alan, when you said, it's like the photocopied, personalized form. But we're all completely different. And it's about adjusting that to our own preferences. Not going, I'm going to buy a house that has a mortgage attached to it that will eat up 70% of my salary, but at least I'm going to fit in with the Joneses. Yay. But going, what fits my needs? What fits my desires and my wants? And, how can I make that happen? So I feel fulfilled. I feel happy in what I've got, and not sit there and say, "Oh, I'm glad somebody else approves of me because now I fit in."
Add to that, actually. Sorry, can I just add, because that was beautiful what you just said there, Angela, and I think one of the big problems that we fall into is that if we don't set our own goals, we'll end up living the goals that other people have for us, because there will be others who want. I've said in the past to you, Alan, that I was a stay-at-home mum for a long time, and I used to laugh about being Cinderella, and then I had to kind of break away from that. It was difficult for my husband and my children when I hit midlife and said, I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to run my own business. And if I hadn't had the tenacity or courage, whatever you want to call it, to do that and have my coach help me, I would still be fulfilling all their goals and making their life easier by being Cinderella.
That's
it.
And
that's a real challenge for a lot of people, to see it as having self-interest and not being selfish when you set goals for yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. No, quite often, people will go and do a job that they hate doing. They'll work long hours at it to make money, to go out and buy things to impress other people. And as I usually add onto that they probably wouldn't even like those people if they knew them, because it's people they don't even know.
Yeah.
And so with that, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
But as both of you have said, you've got to come back. It's got to be your goals. If you do have somebody else advising you, find somebody who is on your side and wants you to get to where you want to go, who asks you those questions, who steers you. But it's got to be your decision all the way through. You've got to know why you want it and build on that, so that the dream's well and truly solid. That gives you a better chance of getting there. And as you said, Angela, put in the make sure it goes into the unconscious mind where it's going to work 24/7.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. Some great advice in there for everybody. I've taken a bit of it on board as well, reminding myself of things. And I think, and that's what it's all about. We talk about what we know, we share that information, but sharing it with other people, we always learn. People say, am I a teacher? And I go, well, I'm a part-time teacher, but I'm a full-time student. So whenever I talk, either I'm teaching, I'm always learning from other people. That's what I love about the panels, and I love about the men and women who have come in here, because I'm learning from all of you all the time, which is fantastic. And I'm really hoping everybody who's been listening in today has taken a lot away from the conversation today as well. So, Angela, thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you,
also
Alan.
to you, Anne. It's been great having you both here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next panel discussion. And remember, as I said, I've got some great news in the next week or so of what we're going to bring to you next year. But that's just a bit of a teaser, a bit of a present for next year. Anyway, we'll see you all later on. Bye-bye.
Bye.